and in your own heart the restless, biting sadness that burns within you, threatening to break. This is the end of the line, the threshold where the others cannot follow, and you have no choice but to walk it, alone.
Hey guys, it's DVD Gamer Girl here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to make a quick video on a path that I saw in Baldur's Gate 3, which I was not expecting at all. I feel like people don't really talk about this very much, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's because, you have to do a very specific sequence of events to get this particular ending, but I thought it was really interesting, and I just wanted to talk about it and kind of give my thoughts on it. So generally, everyone agrees that Karlach is the one companion that deserves a better ending. I mean, basically she has a couple of options of how her story ends, and none of them are very heartwarming or, they're not very satisfying for me. I feel like they all are very, very depressing. Before they added the epilogue, it was actually like even more depressing, I feel like. So generally she has, 3 endings. One is she just dies, like she explodes at the end of the game, and she does not go back to Avernus, and the engine basically gets the best of her and you can see her off at the edge of the dock. It's really sad. Another ending is that she goes back to Avernus with either Will or her lover or both, and even though this is kind of like a little bit better, it's not ideal because she still never really wanted to go back to Avernus, so I feel like she feels kind of forced into it. I mean, she does enjoy it because she's going, with her friend or with her love, etc., but she doesn't really want to do that. The epilogue adds a little bit of hope into this ending, of course, because it implies that she might find some blueprints that might fix her heart, etc., but it's very open-ended, and as you guys know, there's not going to be like a Baldur's Gate 4, so we're never really going to see an ending to her story. There's also a third option where she becomes a mind flayer to carry the stones, and that kind of quiets her engine and her heart, but obviously it's not really Karlach at that point anymore. Like when she's a mind flayer, she's lost her soul essentially, and it's basically a mind flayer with Karlach's memories. So I find that ending very sad as well. But surprisingly, there is a fourth option, and this comes into the picture only if you're playing Origin Karlach and you're romancing Gale, and you basically, convince Gale to become a god, or you kind of support him as he becomes a god. You actually do have an ending where you can ascend with him into godhood, essentially, and that cures your heart. I mean, I feel like this is such a big deal, and even the game kind of downplays it a little bit, I feel like, because when I did get this scene with God Gale, I feel like it was very, very downplayed. Like, I was just like, what about my heart? And he was like, don't worry, I'll fix your heart, etc. And it just felt like, kind of like a really small detail in the grand scheme of things, but it's kind of crazy because this is such a huge deal for the entirety of the game. It's such a huge deal to Karlach. It's like a matter of life or death, but then this God Gale ending just magically cures you basically, and godhood cures you, and it's almost like this tiny little detail, like, which is kind of crazy, honestly.
Yours is a heart I would never let break. But it is not time yet. An infernal contraption of yours has served you well. I think it deserves a good send-off, don't you? So, it's time for me to return to the heavens. The question is, do you wish to go with me? To become a god at my side? Yes, it will cure your heart. You will be made perfect, as you deserve to be. Zariel won't be pleased, of course, but let her try and stop us. And your revenge on her when you finally take it will be divine. All you have to do is come with me.
I mean, obviously it's debatable whether, it's worth like letting Gale ascend into godhood, because obviously this is not the best path for him. He is not really the best person when he becomes a god. Like, I feel like he loses a lot of his moral compass, a lot of his humanity, and he becomes very egotistical and condescending. So I particularly don't really like this ending for Gale, but I mean, it does really feel it worthwhile for Karlach that she actually gets cured and she gets to be with her lover, who is Gale. That being said, I feel like there are a few things about this ending that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So one of the things is, like, right after you defeat the Netherbrain, at that point, Gale kind of makes the determination, like, I'm gonna go try to find the crown, and he basically leaves the party, but he promises that he'll come back for you, but he leaves, right, for some period of time before the epilogue. At this point in the game, if you're playing Origin Karlach, then you basically get an option of if you want to try to hold out and keep surviving, or if you just want to kind of let go and, just die essentially, or if you want to just go to Avernus. So there's 3 options, like either you keep holding on as long as possible, or you let go immediately, or you go to Avernus. And I tested out all of these options, and I saw that if you decide to let go and die immediately, then you kind of go to the edge of the dock and you have that same cutscene that you have in all other playthroughs, and the rest of the party kind of watches you die. Gale is not even there, which I find crazy. Like, the love of your life is not even there for your final moments because he's so obsessed with going and getting this crown of Karsus, right? Like, he doesn't even think about the fact that your engine might implode in the time that he's gone, and basically that's what happens. You can also try to choose to hold out for as long as possible, but ultimately it doesn't work out, and you end up with the same ending where you only resist for so long and then you end up dying to the engine as well. The only scenario where you survive is if you choose to go to Avernus by yourself. So Karlach decides to make the choice to go to Avernus, which honestly, I feel like if you were not playing Karlach, that just simply would not happen, because throughout the course of the game, when you're playing Origin Karlach, she makes it very clear with her internal thoughts that she does not want to go back to Avernus no matter what. She'd rather die than go back to Avernus. So, choosing to go back to Avernus does not feel very canon to me, but this is the only choice that, will eventually save you from the engine, even with Gale. So what happens is eventually Karlach goes back to Avernus, and that's how you are able to meet back up with Gale at the epilogue. In all the other scenarios, you just die. You can't meet up with Gale at the epilogue, so you have no chance of, survival. But if you do go back to Avernus and you meet up with Gale at the epilogue, this is where he basically says, yes, I came back for you, and I want to, help you ascend into godhood as I promised. And that's where you get the dialogue that actually shows that, your heart gets cured and you can be in the astral plane, with Gale living happily ever after, essentially. So if you do think about it, I mean, it is a really cute ending. It does save Karlach, but I feel like it's very, very minimized. And, my personal theory is I feel like maybe the devs minimized that a little bit because God, ascended Gale, is not supposed to be the good ending. It's definitely not the good ending for Gale. It's very clear that it's not the good ending for Gale, because he basically, lets his ego kind of get the better of him. He tries to compete with Mystra. He doesn't really learn that, love and a friendship is more important than power, and I feel like it's the wrong ending for him. So I feel like kind of minimizing the positive impact that this ending has on Karlach, if you're romancing Gale, kind of portrays how bad the God Gale ending is really supposed to be. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but I feel like they did have to kind of include this as a potential option, because it doesn't make much sense that Gale could enter godhood and not be able to cure something like Karlach's heart problem. If she ascends, I mean, essentially she should be very invincible, invulnerable, immortal, and she shouldn't have this problem anymore. So it's very interesting. I think it is kind of definitely a better ending than the Mind Flayer ending or her dying dying, or, you know, her going to Avernus by herself. But I don't know, it's kind of complicated to say, because I do find a sense of kind of like a good storytelling in the end, where she does, you know, the engine does get the best of her and she does die at the end of the game. As sad as it is, and tragic as it is, I feel like there's something like very poetic about that ending. And also, I'm kind of like a fan of realism sometimes. Like sometimes I don't like when games like over romanticize things, or always push you towards like a happy ending, because I don't think that's realistic. I think it is kind of powerful, honestly, when there is a tragic ending that has to happen. And I hate that it has to happen to Karlach, but this godhood thing seems kind of like a little bit of a cop-out to me. It might be preferable if, you know, they actually carried out on the blueprints thing, where Karlach found the blueprints for possibly fixing her engine and eventually was able to find that. I mean, that would be like a true happy ending to her story without hurting anybody else. I feel like in trying to get this ending, you kind of have to hurt Gale and take the bad path for Gale. But it's kind of interesting that this option exists, and I have heard very few people talking about it. Let me know your thoughts on this ending, and if you think it's, you know, better or worse than some of her other endings. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. If you'd like to talk further, I'd love if any of you guys considered enrolling as channel members. I do have Discord server access at my lowest tier, which is only 99 cents a month. I would really appreciate if you guys considered that. It would really help me out. But if not, that's totally okay. I will still always be posting content here for you guys. I hope you guys are having a great holiday season, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.